We're going to switch to number 3. Homeowner Loan Corporation is established in 1933. They provide about $3 billion, a little more than $3 billion, to over 1 million struggling homeowners in danger of foreclosure. After they lend this incredible amount of money, they do an appraisal job that's incredible. 239 cities, 5 million national. Their code. So it would be A, green, best; B, blue, still desirable; C, yellow, definitely declining; D, hazardous; red and hazardous. And so if you are redlined, it's very difficult to get loans from that neighborhood. Please. This is an example of Los Angeles. I'll show you a couple. I'm going to show you Nashville in a second. This is Los Angeles. Please, and you can see the maps there. Each one of these maps has one individual location there, so you're good. This is one example. They have a section here for foreign families, the percentage, the nationalities, and Negroes. They also have a shifting or infiltration. This is kind of their standard form, but they also do it in narrative components. One of the things it says here is that home ownership is limited to the Caucasian race in perpetuity in this one green area, yay rah, green area, protected in perpetuity, etc. Go to the next slide, please. This is an area that's a completely Mexican American area. It says foreign families, 100%, nationalities Mexican, no blacks. It says many American born, impossible to differentiate. And under the infiltration section, it says infiltration of goats, rabbits, and dark-skinned babies indicated. And how they describe the neighborhood is they say, let's see, this is an extremely old Mexican shack district, which has been as is for many generations. Like the Army mule, it has no pride of ancestry, nor hope of posterity. It is a typical semi-tropical countryside slum. The area is generously accorded a low red area, or red grade, or hazardous area. If there was a lower standard, they would have given it to them. And in this case, dark-skinned babies are people of Mexican ancestry. You can see in Nashville, there's only really one major green area. They do more of a narrative one in Nashville, but they still show you the same green, blue, etc. There's a Negro slum clearance project in this particular map, and they show you on that what that means. So there's a white slum clearance, a Negro slum clearance, etc. Please. This is how they refer to some of the green areas: Belmead Station, Hillsborough, Franklin Road, Belmead. They basically say that this is going to be the nicest area: West End, Belmont, Sunset Park, etc. This is from the mid-30s. They talk about this is going to be the most desirable area, and if there's going to be an expansion of the city that's desirable, it will take place in this area, from whites moving in and from other areas, and then Negroes taking their place. This is the B section, which also includes Belmont, West End, Sunset Park, etc. They talk about how the universities here in Vanderbilt and Belmont, this area contains medium and high grades, but basically that the neighborhood, the colleges, the influence of the colleges will not prove detrimental in residential properties. So they basically argue that the properties here in Nashville, in Vanderbilt, by Belmont, will keep the residents desirable. Well, there are about 3 other historically black colleges a couple miles down the street, and they're referred to very differently, as well as the neighborhoods around it. Please. And in this area, the D area, talk about the state prison, North Nashville, Watts-Watkin Park, and they talk about that these are poor types largely composed of Negroes. They talk about Fisk and Meharry and how important they are and how people from all over the country come here. This area contains a large industrial area, but it still gets a degrading, right? So it says that the influence of the state prison and the farm, along with the Negro schools, will make this a Negro area. You can go to the next slide as well. It talks about 98% of the population of Nashville are native born, so the other areas are not such an issue. Still, again, in this kind of D area, by Meharry, it said this location has the cheapest type of Negro dwellings as well as the highest type, but it still gets a D rating. So there's dentists, there's doctors, there's PhDs, and the neighborhood around these colleges do not get the benefit of the doubt around. I want to talk briefly about real estate bias. Until the 1950s, many real estate agencies basically advocated that black people should not be brought in. This is from the national, one of the major national real estate agencies, and they talk about how individuals, basically they don't want realtors to introduce aspects of the neighborhood that would be considered a detrimental influence. And I'll give you an example. It says, when, for example, in a respectable neighborhood, a home is wanted for conversion to an objectionable use, no reputable broker will consent the prospective buyer. The latter might be a bootlegger who would cause considerable annoyance to his neighbors, a madam who has a number of call girls on her string, a gangster who wanted a screen for his activities by living in a better neighborhood, a colored man of means who was giving his children a college education and thought they were entitled to live among whites. All four of those on the same level, according to this real estate agency, through the 1950s.
Fabulous, right? I mean, one of the challenges that I, doing the research, I think that you see is that neighborhoods themselves are not stigmatized. The people who occupy the neighborhoods are stigmatized. And oftentimes when they're displaced, they bring that stigma with them. And why that's significant is, when we first moved to Nashville 9 years ago, we lived in Antioch, right by the Hickory Hollow Mall, or what used to be the Hickory Hollow Mall. And everybody who talked to me, I'd never seen it this way, they talked about how beautiful the Hickory Hollow Mall was 15, 20 years ago. And when I got there, the anchor stores some of them had started to leave, and you go to a jewelry store like Cool Springs or like Opryland or some of these other really nice communities, Green Hills, etc. I never saw that. But what I did see is when people get displaced, wherever they go, they bring the stigma with them. Because the real estate agents, the federal government, federal housing agencies have stigmatized communities. And when we were looking to buy a house, on Murfreesboro Road in Antioch, and the same home by the same builder in that area was about $60,000 cheaper than it was where we eventually bought our house. Still in Antioch, but what my neighbors call Brentioch. It's still Antioch, man. I don't call it. It's Antioch, but there is they say Brentioch, right? Cane Ridge, and then Antioch, right? Even though our zip